Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Reverse Sweep Show. This is your host SS, and joining me as ever is my co-host AB. We had an enthralling test series between India and England, 5 test match series, and it's what we love about test match cricket. There were a lot of ups and downs, a lot of unexpected things happening, unpredictability, and finally the series ended 2 apiece. So spoils were shared. What did you make of the series, AB, and did you think that it was a fair result?
It was such an amazing series, as you mentioned, so many ups and downs. I think it was an absolute roller coaster of a series. And we'll also discuss about some series predictions that we had done in the initial part. But I think it was an amazing series, one of the best that I've watched in recent times. And I think both the teams deserved a series draw, and 2-2 was the end result, and a fair result at that. But having said that, I feel it could have been 3-1 or 4-1 either side. It was
Correct.
that close a series. But having said that, SS, we did some series predictions before the series started, and would just be a fun exercise to go through it. How did we fare? And I know for a fact that you were bang on with the series result. You said it would be a 2-2 draw, and it was a 2-2 draw in the end. Quick timeout. If you are loving this dive into cricket's wild twists and turns, hit that like button and subscribe to the Reverse Sweep Show.
And if you've got that one friend who can't stop talking about cricket, share this episode with them and bring them into the squad. Yeah, I think that's the highlight of the summer for me, that I was able to get the big prediction right, even though I was a bit wrong with the Root thing. Root finished as the second highest run scorer and did not win the man of the series because Gautam Gambhir decided to go with Harry Brook for for no reason at all. But you were right on the Joe Root as not being the highest run scorer. But yeah, you did mention Joe Root as the highest run scorer, but not the man of the series.
But
You went with Shubman Gill.
Shubman Gill, yeah.
Yeah, so you were right on that front. So I think kudos on that. That was a tough one because I was quite not so bullish on Gill making all those runs. So kudos on that.
Yeah, and then you again made the right prediction of Mohammed Siraj playing 5 test matches and taking
Correct.
the most number of wickets. Although it was a certain when Stokes was leading the charge for most of the series till the fourth test, until he was ruled out of the fifth test, and then Mohammed Siraj with his heroics finally ended up with the most number of wickets. You also mentioned, SS, that it was the highlight of the summers for you. I think it was only you and Dinesh Karthik who got the series results right.
Yeah, very happy to be mentioned in the same line as Dinesh Karthik, our Nidahas hero. But yeah, I mean, I just banged on the fact that Siraj is going to play 5 test matches and pick decent number of wickets, and that's what it came to be.
Yeah, smart pick at that. So ultimately, it was 2 out of 4 for you and 1 out of 4 for me. So kudos on that, SS. And with that, I think let's also move to the next section of the podcast today. As we mentioned, we'll be talking a lot about India versus England, and this episode, as we said, we cannot not talk about that series. And since we're also a storytelling podcast, SS, what were the major storylines that struck out for you? Maybe we can both alternate and like talk about 3 storylines.
Hmm. Yeah, so first storyline which recently Cricinfo was publishing some stuff around it as well was how India was so unlucky in the series. We keep talking about the number of tosses that we keep losing. We lost all 5 tosses for a young team touring to England in a 5 match series. That itself is a big handicap to go with. And then if you look at the control statistics, especially on the batting front, that how many deliveries were the batsmen in control, either middling the ball or leaving the ball, that percentage you had a big delta between the two batting sides. I think England was around 78% average, and India was around 85%, with obviously Gill leading the charge. Even an opener like KL Rahul was having around 80% of control weightage. And despite that, you would think that India will make more runs because they will be more in control. They will be playing less errant shots, even though England play much more irresponsibly, even though they toned it down this series, but they make more runs. So they play with a risk reward in mind. But generally, with teams that you have seen over the years, the team that has had a better control percentage in such a big delta, generally the team with better control does win the series, which did not happen. So that's another marker of how India were unfortunate. It could be the outcome of the toss, it could be the outcome of the weather conditions, the pitch conditions. It was similar to Ashes 2023 actually as well, in which the delta was similar, but England were making more runs per fall shot. They were taking more risks and were getting more reward. But in this case, it wasn't the case because they had toned down their baseball approach. But India could not, let's say, drive home the advantage because of all the control they were getting. Prasidh Krishna and Mohammed Siraj induced more fall shots than English bowlers, around 25% to 28%. But for example, Ben Stokes induced much lesser fall shots, but was able to get more wickets. So when India were making mistakes, they were getting out. When England made mistakes, they were still getting some runs, if not a mountain of runs. So overall, I would say the first storyline was that it could have been 4-1. The first test match was an unlosable test match. We somehow lost it. And the third test match, we'll talk a lot about it. We were really close. We could have won it. So I would say, even though we think it's a fair result, if you look at statistics and if some tosses would have gone India's way, this series could have well have been Shubman Gill's side to be victorious.
That's an amazing point of view that you bring, SS, around control percentages, and quite fascinating to look at it, at least in the hindsight, and also see how unlucky India were with the toss. Losing five tosses out of five, that's how rare is that? And in
Yeah.
fact, India hasn't won a single toss in this entire calendar year, right? That's how an unlucky streak we have been on.
It's already crossed like 50 million probability or something by now.
Yeah, absolutely. And what also happens because of losing tosses is that you end up getting the worst of conditions, both overhead and the pitch conditions. And like Indian batters had to fight all of that and still manage a 2-2 draw. I think that's a major point to be said. For me, one thing which really stood out was the absolute gritty nature of this test series. 25 days, 5 matches of absolute test cricket theater, as I think that is what it should be called. Like every single day, every single player putting everything out there on the line. And to really think about it, let's start off from the top. We had a couple of players who were completely injured out of the test match and out of the test series, but they came in to bat when their team needed them. One was Rishabh Pant coming out, hobbling down the stairs on a broken foot and scoring some very useful runs. And then, of course, who can forget last day, Chris Wokes coming out with a broken, dislocated shoulder, hand in a sling, and then just running and grimacing in pain just to see if they can potentially win the match. So, absolute pinnacle of what it takes to win a test match. The second level is about players who are fit but fighting through maybe some niggles, managing their workload, but then putting it everything that they had. So we had Ben Stokes. I never thought Ben Stokes would be bowling in a test match again. And then here we have him leading the charts when it comes to taking wickets. Bumrah, of course, coming in and bowling in those 3 test matches, as he always does. Jofra Archer making his comeback and then bowling those long spells. So we have that. And then on the very other side, we have Mohammed Siraj, who just will not stop, who will just keep bowling and bowling, whether the team requires him to bowl 10 over spells or a 5 over spell, whatever the team required, Mohammed Siraj delivered. And yeah, that to me stood out as a storyline in this test series. They're putting everything that they had out there on the field for 25 days of absolute test cricket theatre.
I mean, very interesting on Bumrah as well as Jofra. I think Bumrah has got like a bit of brunt from the Indian Twitter fans, which is a bit harsh. He actually picked 2 5-wicket hauls. It's just unfortunate situation that India did not win the test matches he was part of. And Jofra was so good. I mean, the very reason that Jaiswal's average was only 41 and he had the lowest control percentage of 77% was because Jofra really got to him. And Jofra really troubled Pant as well. And nobody gets to trouble Pant. So, despite a big hesitation in the English media about whether they were like really pushing Jofra to play the 5-day match. He played 2 of them and was really impressive in both of them. And I know we will talk about it, but if we had got Jadeja out in the 4 test match, the result would have been vastly different. Also on Siraj, I mean, you talked about how big of a donkey work he did, like a proper workhorse. He was bowling 90 kmph even on the last day, during the last spell, getting that final wicket. I mean, lion-hearted is like an understatement. We wrote an article around this on the Reverse Sweep Show blog as well, and hopefully we'll put out a video around it as well. I mean, it's Siraj's world we are all living in. But yeah, I think
Absolutely.
continuing on the story, I think the one which I was grossly wrong about, and we mentioned in the start when we were doing the series review of the predictions, I really felt that Shubman Gill will struggle in this series and he will be found wanting both as a batter as well as a captain, especially looking back on how he was not selected to the final BGT test match, I remember, and struggled a bit in seaming conditions, but he was colossal as a batter. I mean, what, 750 plus runs? It's almost stuff of legends now, with a very high average, probably of 90 or something, and led the way as a captain. He also had some issues in leadership, people pointing out about his field placements, about bowling choices, and all. But for a person who is not sure of his position in the test team, not sure about his technique against seaming bowling and in England, and then having to captain a young team which is in transition against England, who play with a certain brand of cricket in their own backyard in a five test match series. There were so many variables that seemed to be against Shubman Gill, and then having doing a Graham Smith, as we mentioned in Tanya's episode. I mean, when Graham Smith went as a young captain and made double hundreds in England, those amount of runs, and finally able to get India to equalize the series 2-2 with all these constraints in place, that's a monumental effort from him. And he will only get stronger as a batter. We have had no doubts on it, just a slight blip. But even as a leader, I think it's an exceptional show from him. And that is a big storyline from my perspective, and also as a podcaster that does content on cricket and as a viewer or long time viewer of cricket, it was almost like a humble pie for me that I doubted on such a great talent, the prince of Indian cricket now, the new prince. And he's going to be the new king of Indian cricket. I mean, amazingly impressed by Shubman Gill.
You mentioned about the new king of Indian cricket, and that is one player who, at least I personally thought I would miss in Test cricket, not just because of Virat Kohli's batting prowess, but because of what he brings to the field, that edge that he gives to the team with his energy on field, with his aura on field, with the fear that he induces in the opposition team. I personally felt with the retirement of Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, Indian team would be a meek side, specifically a young team, a team in transition visiting England, coming up against Ben Stokes England. I honestly thought we would be playing a meeker brand of cricket, but then it was really heartening to see Shubman Gill picking up fights with all the English players
Yeah.
whenever needed, and the entire team rallying behind him. I think that entire confidence from his batting performance is also percolated to his leadership, and that was really
And
heartening for me to see.
he's well spoken in even in the presentations and in the press conference as well. So he carries himself really well.
Yeah, and then after Shubman Gill, the next storyline for me, honestly, it was a series which was like so many individual performances, and we cannot not talk about a tale of two all-rounders from either side. And these are players who are compared so often: Ben Stokes from England and Ravindra Jadeja from India. Both of them amazing players and probably one of the greatest all-rounders of their teams in the recent times. Ben Stokes being the rare commodity that he is, a pace bowling all rounder. And he keeps surprising you, right? Whenever you write him down, he keeps coming back and keeps competing in a way that nobody else can. And we saw that in the last day of the Lord's Test match. Ben Stokes bowling those marathon spells, putting his body on the line, even bowling with an injured shoulder in that fourth Test match. So that's got to show up. He's an amazing batter. He also scored a century, crossed 7,000 runs, has 200 wickets in Test cricket. That's
230.
insane.
Yeah.
230 wickets in Test cricket. And on the flip side, you have Ravindra Jadeja, who keeps showing up whenever the team needs him to. Six 50s in the series, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, six
Yeah.
50s. And SSU were mentioning me that not even Virat Kohli or Sunny Gavaskar have gotten 650s in a Test series. Amazing stats, 500 plus runs. And just to contrast, even Sachin Tendulkar has never gotten 500 plus runs in a Test series. And then he also pitched in with the wickets, and of course fielding. He always has that impact. So yeah, it was such a tale of these two all-rounders pitching in whenever their teams needed. Ben
Yeah.
Stokes with that very critical run out of Rishabh Pant. We'll speak more about that going on. And then Jadeja, the last man standing in the Lord's Test. The last man, not the last man, but the partnership with Washington Sundar in the fourth Test to save the match. Amazing contributions. I think this was definitely one of the most important storylines for me from this entire series.
Yeah, I think he's world number one in all-rounders. Did almost Gary Sobers. Gary Sobers made like 700 runs and 20 wickets, but it was only after that, almost 60 years back, that somebody did that kind of an effort versus England. He has now made so many runs, 50 plus runs, batting below six or six down. I mean, it's amazing. I was watching a video of Sachin on Cricinfo series around it. He was rating him so highly about his batting. He has an average of almost around 38, which is like equal to Dhoni, even better than Ben Stokes' batting average, even though Ben Stokes has almost double the runs of Ravindra Jadeja. And then Ravi Jadeja also has 300 plus wickets with what average of 25. I mean,
20.
this is absolutely crazy. I was also listening to Siddharth Monga when he was doing the Talk Sport show with Jared Kimber. He was mentioning about how Ravindra Jadeja batting stance is so still. He plays the ball on the merit. He doesn't care about the bowler, the pitch, what happened in the ball before, after. He is so stable, so reliable. So for me, the bottom line is Ben Stokes, you always, as a cricket fan, seem to think that, yeah, it's time to probably write him off. And then he comes back and he surprises you each every time. So there is consistency in his surprising. It's almost like that. While Ravindra Jadeja is like, you know, he's going to be super stable, super reliable every time, each time, never letting the team down. More with the bat when he's playing overseas and more with the ball when he's playing at home. This is the reason why these two are champion cricketers and why, in my eyes, the two best all-rounders going around in the world cricket.
And also, when we talk about all rounders, we cannot leave out Washi, right? A quick shout out is due for Washington Sundar and
Our
his
new number three
contributions.
batter.
Is that your hot take?
Yes, he's going to be the new number three batter for India for a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not off the charts given the kind of confidence Gautam Gambhir has in
Yeah,
Washington.
he's a lefty coming at number three, and you have now got a replacement in Aksar in home test matches for Ravindra Jadeja, and then you've got Washington Sundar, the replacement for Ashwin in a way, or Jadeja, or both. So he's a unicorn cricketer, and I think we'll see a lot of him going forward. But yeah, to wrap my storylines for the series, I will have to go bit off the ground and go into the dressing room and the team management side of things. Gautam Gambhir and his decision making and his choices. Um, the series ended with a 2-2 draw because I was saying, and when we were recording with Tanya on the day four of the four test match, we were saying this could pretty well be 4-1 to England because England was so ahead in the game by then and the momentum as well. I did say that Gautam Gambhir is very close to a sack. Looking at what has happened in the India-New Zealand Test series and the BGT, I mean, he's done well in white ball cricket. And maybe it's in good interest of everyone that India has split coaching. And there have been rumors still flying around regarding after Abhishek Nair went away, Morne Morkel and Dishkata probably would be sacked as well. So maybe Gambhir has one more series in him. Maybe he survives, and now the away test matches are almost a year away, so he may have some rope to live with. He's very Trumpian in his approach. He takes decisions which are not very, popular and very anti-Ko Shastri era, which we all love and which we all felt was the right way for India to go about their business. Unlike Trump, he doesn't back down from his decision. He just keeps going and doubling down. He goes with his batting depth logic, play number eight, batter till now, Nitish Reddy, Shardul Thakur, Washington Sundar for a good effect. And it somehow worked for him, but I think a lot of kudos to the team and the personnel. So India has been doing well in this series despite him, not because of him, as a lot of people have started putting out. So it's a watch the space thing about Gautam Gambhir. How is it going to all happen? But yeah, that's a storyline we should not forget about. And he also goofed up my prediction win by choosing Harry Brook. So yeah.
Definitely a very strong-headed coach at that, and he's going to live or die by this word, I feel. So either he'll be sacked or he'll do amazingly well for India. Now the next storyline for me, and this is something which again is something that warrants discussion in this podcast, is Mohammed Siraj. Amazing performance in the last couple of days of the test series. But if we look at his performance throughout the series, then it was a very hit or miss kind of a performance. And this to me is again something which really strikes out, baffles me. We also spoke about this on the episode that we recorded with Tanya on the curious case of Indian pace bowling attack. Bumrah plays and Siraj on the other side. When Bumrah is bowling magnificently well, Siraj struggles to put the balls in good areas. And also a shout out on this to Jared Kimber for
And good
doing a lot of
areas.
this analysis and good areas. Yeah. So the analysis is basically there are days when Siraj struggles to find the good areas, is not able to pitch the ball in the right lines and lengths. But then there are other times when he finds his rhythm. He's an absolute menace. He can be a front line. He's the leader of the pace attack, picking up fifers for fun, making batters' life so much more difficult, as we saw on the fourth and fifth days of the final Test match. And there's a very interesting stat to back this up. When India wins the Test matches, when Siraj is playing, his average is around 18 per wicket, and when India loses, that average goes up to above 40. There's
Wow.
such a massive delta. Compare that to someone like Bumrah. Bumrah, when India wins, is around 15, 16, and that goes up to around 24, 25. For other bowlers like Zahir Ishant, it goes from, say, mid 20s to around early 30s, mid 30s. But the delta is so wide for Siraj, it's almost a hit or miss. When he finds his rhythm, then he's an amazing bowler who can be the leader of the attack. When he misses, when he doesn't find his rhythm, then he absolutely does nothing. So in a way, and as Jared Kimber put it, it's his way or no way. So that's such a curious case of Mohammed Siraj. And I think one thing which everyone loved about him and no one denies is the heart that he
Yeah.
has and the effort that he puts out on the cricket field. And to that extent, I really hope we see so many more years of Mohammad Siraj, so many more match winning performances. But with that consistency, if you can bring that in and Mohammad Siraj and Bumrah bowling together in tandem, that will be amazing for Indian cricket.
Yeah, I love the Bumrah, Shami, and Siraj combination where he was the first change bowler. Now he has become the partner in crime with Bumrah. But when he has to step in that leadership role, I think there is something, a beast awakens inside him and he becomes such an amazing bowler. And it's almost poetic justice to him. He was the guy who got out at the last in that very agonizing fashion to Shoaib Bashir in the third test match. He was the guy who dropped the catch of Harry Brook in the fifth test match, and he was the guy to deliver the final death knell. So it was a series that people will remember a long time, but especially Mohammad Siraj and all his fans. So yeah, we couldn't not talk about Mohammad Siraj. But
It was a very fitting end to the series.
yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
that
Very fitting.
image of Mohammad Siraj bowling that 143 kmph Yorker to Gus Atkinson and his stumps being rattled, that will be the image of the entire series, right? Whenever people think about it. So
And
very fitting that place.
another poetic aspect about this is that remember that conversation that I always trust in Jassi Bhai, and this time it was Siraj with the things that he wrote, believe that he wanted himself to believe that he could be the match winner, and he was. So amazing, amazing. Before we go to our favorite section about what ifs and hypotheticals, I want to talk about the rock and the root. Root being Joe Root, obviously went past so many great batters, and now there is a conversation about whether he's even better than Sachin or not. Maybe a conversation or a hot take for some other day. But amazing consistency again. Now 39 hits, crossing 13,000 runs and whatnot. Hot on the heels of Sachin. Three centuries. Pity that he could not win the fifth Test match for his country. But shout out to him. But also shout out to another guy who, for a long time, has always been in the shadow of trying to find what is the best position. Is he maximizing on his potential? But KL Rahul as an opener has shown before in England series as well, but this time was such a rock. He has the best control percentage of the openers that were available in the series. Crawley was at 69, Duckett and Jaiswal were around mid 70s. He was 80% control percentage as an opener. So solid, made tons, made 50s, and gives such stability and such by his orthodox play. And his cover drives are a joy to watch, and also his slip catching as well. I think KL Rahul is now the leader of our batting, and he showed that because I always felt that he seemed to be bogged down with any kind of responsibility given out to him. Maybe that's what marriage and having a kid does, but KL Rahul is showing all the stability that Indian cricket needs right now in when it comes to opening batting, and he was immense in this series.
Yeah, and I remember specifically with K. Rahul, you were talking about a kind of identity crisis in the last
Yeah.
episode that we had done. And I think he has found his spot in the opening slot in Test cricket. And he had a few really amazing innings even in Australia, right? The first Test match where he had that partnership with Yashasvi Jaiswal, and now here in England, multiple innings here. And who can forget that partnership that he had with Gill, where they batted
Yeah,
non-stop for 2 sessions. So
yeah,
definitely, KL Rahul, uh, very fittingly called the Rock. The other one that you spoke of, the Root, Joe Root, he has been on a run-scoring spree, and very much on the heels of Sachin Tendulkar. In fact, there are so many conversations around when he will cross Sachin.
yeah.
And there were two, in fact, very interesting theories around that now that I think about it. One is that it might be in that India versus England series if Joe Root scores at the rate he has been scoring per match in his entire career, and that match might actually fall in Wankhede. So that
Wow.
would be a very interesting one to watch. The other theory is that if he scores at the rate he has been scoring for the last 4 5 years of his life, so which is at a much better rate, then that might be a series decider of the next Ashes that will be in England.
Wow.
So that
Wow.
again will be an amazing stage. I think it's more a matter of when he crosses Sachin, unless there's a sharp decline in form or an injury.
Yeah.
But yeah, an amazing player to watch.
Yeah. And now, since we wrapped up with our major storylines, time to go into our favorite section, which is the what ifs and the hypotheticals. We'll take two tries each from our side and alternate. AB, which is the first thing that comes to mind in a series that was full of all what ifs? What is the one that you select first?
You mentioned, SS, that this was a series of two halves. And
Yeah.
when we said that it was a series of two halves, the first half was dominated by India and England playing catch up. And the second half was dominated by England and India playing catch up. And I feel that series was split in that Lord's Test match around the second innings, the second day or the third day, but it was a run out of Rishabh Pant completely against the run of play. Rishabh Pant, so England batted first, scored 387. India were batting second. An amazing partnership brewing between KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant. Just before lunch, KL Rahul very close to a century, and then Rishabh Pant wanting to give him that single to enable him to get that century just before lunch. And Ben Stokes, the match winner that he is, inflicted an amazing run out. And I think that completely swayed the momentum. And India were able to exactly match the total that England had, 387, and ultimately we saw how close that match got. India lost by just 22 runs. An amazing match, but very fine margins, and it is in these margins that runouts like these pinch you so much. Had India gained a lead of say even 30, 40 more runs, which would have happened if Rishabh Pant was playing and not run out, then it would have been a very different result of not just the match but also of the entire series. Imagine after Lords India were 2-1 up, the entire momentum being with India. I mean, it could well have been a 3-2 or even a 3-1 or a 4-1 series.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's my big what if moment.
Yeah, I think completely agree with you. And this is what I was talking in terms of control percentages. I think Pant was in early 80s as well. And this was from statistical point of view, he middled the ball and he got run out. So that will be counted as a control, but he got dismissed. So again, an errant on the batter side. And yeah, completely agree. I think India would have won that test match because India would have taken a lead and then would have lesser target to share. And maybe that would have led India to win the series because the momentum would not have shifted. So completely on cue with that one, maybe. From my side, the one I pick, I go back to the first test match at Headingley. India did suffer that collapse after Gill got out and we should have made 600, whatever. But then on the, I think it was the last over where Bumrah was really putting in all the fire and then he got Brook on a rising delivery caught at mid wicket, I think, by Siraj. That was called a no ball. He survived. England ended their day around 200 odd for three or something. But if Brook was back, because next day he went on, made 99 if I'm not wrong, and the lead would have been better and India would have competed. It was anyways an unlosable test match, but this would have really put the final nail in the coffin. It's very less talked about because we have had so much action the five test matches and so many storylines to talk about. People have almost forgotten that that happened. It was Bumrah bowling another no ball in England. We have seen that happen before, but yeah, I think that one storyline has got just a bit away, but we could have started off with a win and then things could have been different.
Yeah, and you say Bumrah bowling another no ball again in England. The first one, of course, refers to the Champions Trophy final back in 2017.
Yeah,
And yeah, India
Fakar
lost that time.
Zaman,
India,
yeah,
Fakhar
Fakar Zaman
Zaman.
then and Harry Brook now.
Yeah, of course. India was way ahead in that game, and if he had gotten Harry Brooks' wicket, probably we would have given them a target of what 450, 450 plus, maybe around
Yeah,
500 in the last innings. And we have discussed this. The bounce ball approach helps England chase targets which are within, say, a 300 to 400 range. But beyond that, with the kind of risks that they take, with the kind of pressure that would be on their batters, I think they would struggle. And that
correct.
is exactly what also showed up in the second test, where England were given a target of around 600 plus and
Yeah,
they completely faltered.
yeah.
So yeah, I think a very, very valid point is on that Bumrah no ball. With everything that happened in the series after that, we kind of forgot, but yeah, a big what if. The next one that we speak about, you spoke a little bit about it earlier when you spoke about Jofra Archer, but that fourth test match, the second innings for India, so basically the fourth innings, the fifth day, after Shubman Gill got out, Ravindra Jadeja walked into bat to face Jofra Archer. The very first ball was a catch drop by Joe Root, who is an amazing left fielder. Most number of catches in Test cricket by a non-keeper, if I'm not wrong. But that proved very costly for England because then Ravindra Jadeja went on to score a century and a very important, crucial partnership with Washington Sundar. I think if Jadeja got out at that point, then we were just left with Washington and we would not have been able to save the match. It would have been a lost match. So that catch was really costly for England.
And I feel the English media doesn't talk enough about it because it is Root who dropped it, and they want to talk about all other things about handshakes and ball changes and all kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean that was a big point, and I think that was the day we were recording with
Day
Tanya.
five.
Yeah, day 4, day 5, and we
Yeah.
were saying that that could have led to a 4-1 defeat for India and a really shambolic o result, if not performance. So. Yeah, I think that was a great shout. I think again, just like the Bumrah no ball, people have forgotten about that Joe Root catch drop. For my second and final what if and hypothetical pick, I go back to the third test again and the ball change that happened. I think that was a test match at Lords and it was a 387, 387. And Bumrah and Siraj are hooping the ball around, especially Bumrah, the new ball that came in, and India were picking wickets. Jamie Smith was going, but if for whatever inexplicable reason India changed the ball without consulting all the leaders and all the bowlers, especially Siraj and Bumrah, we could have gotten Smith early and left India with a lead of around 40, 50, 50, 60 runs. And that could have been very crucial in that kind of game that we talked about a bit earlier. It was a game of close margins again. So I think that inexplicable ball change, which nobody has any sympathy for, I don't know why we did it. Uh, and yeah, I think that's a big what if, and we could have won the third test match, and the momentum would never have swung England's way.
Absolutely, and so many discussions around ball changes happening. And this one was something which India themselves went for, and
Correct.
then ended up on being on the wrong side of things. The new ball that they got wasn't doing much. So yeah, again, a very very pertinent call, SS, on this.
Yeah, because other cases were like, okay, this is Duke's ball. They are having problems. We will change it. The umpires will change it. Somebody will not have any. But this was a bit went off the radar. Even the commentators and analysts were like, there is no reason why they did it, and it ultimately led to Jamie Smith making all those runs. And yeah, so for all the ball changes, that was the one.
And also contrast that to the last day when England were left with 35 odd runs,
Yeah,
and India had like a new ball due, but they did not change the ball because the older ball was doing a lot of things.
correct,
I
correct.
think India
So
learned their lesson.
learn the lesson. Two test matches late, but we won the test match. So yeah, so those were our stories, and I think that's a wrap up on our episode as well. So we did a full review of India England series, putting us and our predictions back on the line, and we'll put a nice graphic to show who was right and who was not that right. And yeah, so we will be back with more episodes, more guest episodes as well. Thank you for all the love and support you are showing on all platforms. We'll be back with more weekly episodes and keep publishing articles on our blog and some short form content on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and keep giving us your lovely feedback. Thank you for tuning in. Bye bye.